think I did like 2,000 words.
Upwards of 6,000 words.
And that was maybe 4,000 of the words. The words weren't flowing.
Every single day, work, work, work.
I just know this can be something special.
I don't know what to do now. Dan here, and in this video I have some ENFP and INFP productivity advice. This video is based on the last 2.5 months or so that I spent in Paris, and during that time finished by far the most ambitious book I've ever taken on, and I managed to average about 1,500 words a day. Now I need to be clear about one thing. The insights on productivity in this video helped me, an ENFP with ADHD, to finish a book in a couple of months. And if I was able to do that, you're going to be able to take this advice and literally build a colony on Mars before Elon does. So let's roll with the first tip.
This lighting is so sexy, right?
So the first thing, the obvious thing perhaps, is that location matters. Where we work from makes a huge difference in terms of our ability to produce. For me personally, being in a busier cafe with lots going on is where I tend to get my best work done. And in the case of writing this book, I actually even stayed in Paris to write the book.
What it has given me by being here is I'm completely concentrating all my, let's say, work energy on one thing. Being here has allowed me to really focus and feel like I'm getting something achieved every day and making a lot of progress.
Of course, by telling people I was in Paris to write this book, I added an extra level of accountability. Hey, you're spending all this money to be in Paris. You say you're writing this book, you better get it done. So some accountability definitely helps.
So now we're at September 30th. Definitely feeling nervous about where the book is at. Crazy washing machine here.
Now, another thing that really helped is having a clear focus of what you're going to be working on. So I would never go to a cafe, sit down and think, what am I going to write today? And let my extroverted intuition get all over the place.
And that's an important thing for me, that when I sit down, I actually know what I'm writing and have some inspiration about it. I can kind of feel it.
Never sit down at your computer without knowing what you're going to be working on and what success looks like for you. Success was, okay, I will sit down and write 2,000 words today. That is a successful day. Then I had something to work towards, and I'll tell you, when I went to a cafe knowing what I was supposed to do, what success would look like, I was successful almost every single day I did that. Along that same line is you want to focus on one thing at a time. I would never sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do this chapter and this chapter and this one and start thinking about all three of them. Nope, that's a recipe to get nothing done. Sit down and have one thing to do, and then when you finish that thing, you can move on to the next one.
Advice for my future self here would be more uninterrupted gaps, I think. So, building momentum, like have at least 7, 10, 14 days in a row without trips, without other things, where you can just focus, and keep going.
Your unconscious can only do one thing at a time, and your conscious can only do one thing at a time. So if you try to do a bunch, you just split your energy, get very, very, very little actually done.
And the big thing for me that I've learned though, is just to get back on track. Like, I'm not going to get into other parts of the business until this book is done, even if it's losing me money and everything else. It's like, I know I need to just focus and have this done first, and then I can jump to something else.
With that note of focus, of course, turning off apps and notifications and all that goes without saying. I also found that being aware of and managing my energy levels was really important. Some days I would wake up and just have no creative gas left in the tank.
So today ended up being one of those days that I totally hate. Went out this morning, had a good night's sleep, thought I did everything right. I did the right things I should do. There's nothing I can really think of I did wrong.
At times I forced it. I was like, no, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna write.
Went out, didn't get anything great done. The fuel just isn't there. I did a little bit of writing, tried to get into the rhythm. I was gonna go out and get more done.
I should have known. I knew from the beginning of the day that I was not going to have anything there.
I think one of the mistakes I've made here is I haven't, in the afternoon, just like proactively went to museums or galleries or went and done things.
I should have taken the day off to recharge, went to a museum, an art gallery, just strolled along the river.
Maybe some more of that would add more inspiration, which would kind of charge me up even if I don't realize I need that.
I tried to force it, and then the next day I wasn't that recharged either. So being aware of your energy levels is really important.
Just kind of felt stuck at the door, literally, and just wasted the day. I don't know what to do now.
And it's the same thing with managing those levels within the days. There were a few days where I managed to write upwards of 6,000 words. As a friend said to me, that's as long as my entire master's thesis. And yes, those were epic writing days. And I was able to achieve them by managing my energy throughout the day. I didn't have a big lunch. I was careful with the coffee, not too much, not too little. It was really walking a tightrope, and I cannot do that every day. And in fact, all the days that I wrote the 6,000 words roughly, the next day, I had nothing left. It was like I emptied the tank.
I've had now 2 days where I wrote between 5 and like 6,500 words in one day. And then both times the next day, nothing. It was just, I think I drained the tanks, because the next days I followed sort of the same routine and I went to the writing spot. I did everything right. It's just like there was nothing left.
Probably a better balance might have been writing 4,000 or 5,000 words, cutting it off, leaving a little bit of creativity there, and then the next day picking up where I was, but whatever, lessons learned.
I think I did like 2,000 words at a Starbucks, and then I switched to a Mexican place where I ate, but I ordered a small meal. So normally you get like 4 little tacos, I got 2. And so basically keeping the meal small, because lunch can be a killer.
The point is to not only manage your energy levels in terms of exercise, food, caffeine, all these things. Sleep, of course, is very important, but also to be aware of them and maybe adjust your day plans based on it. The second time I wrote 6,000 words, the next day I just didn't even try to write. I was like, I know nothing is gonna come out. Let's give myself the gift, reward myself for the really productive day before, and just take the day off and enjoy myself.
Decided to come home, I'll take a nap, I'll recharge, and then have a plan to try again in the late afternoon and evening and see what happens.
Now, if you're an extrovert like myself, you may need to spend time with people to manage your energy levels.
I've always fantasized about being the person who would move to the woods, go to a cabin and just write a book. And I've tried that in ways and it does not work for me. I need stimulation, I need interaction, craziness, chaos. I often end up going and working from bars or trains or things like this.
And it was totally true. The days where I didn't see friends for a couple of days, I would lose my energy and focus as well. So when I'm talking about energy, it's really about everything you need, balancing that to meet your needs so that you can be at your best.
So what seems to other people like a way to actually be distracted or waste time, for me is more of a necessity. And I think for other writers and creatives, you just have to figure out what is the thing that works for you. I have a friend who's a writer and she is the opposite. She does her best work when she is locked alone in a room and just left to do it. So it's all about finding what works for you.
Being a writer is not easy. It's all about discipline. It's about focus. Every single day, work, work, work. That is life here as a writer. There's no fun.
And this one you've probably heard before, and of course know for yourself, it's deadlines. The importance of deadlines. Deadlines create an urgency. They push us to keep going. Maybe the days we really don't feel like we can work or focus, we can push ourselves just a little bit more. And of course, deadlines help us adjust the pace of our work, because if you know, hey, this has to be done by then, it allows you to adjust the complexity and amount of time maybe that you would invest to something.
I don't want to rush it. I have a fear of pushing it together too fast and then ending up with a sloppy draft that just doesn't work. And then that's a lot worse for me than taking longer on a first draft.
I think the biggest thing that worries me is getting to a point where I have to jump into other work and other things and it's not done and it sits unfinished. That really worries me about the book. And I just know this can be something special. So that's why I extended my stay in Paris as much as I have.
For me, a first draft is exciting, it's new. I'm really wanting to complete it. Once it's done, the editing is more painful.
I shouldn't use the word editing because I always say I hate editing, and mentally that's probably not good. So I'll call it upgrading. I'll have my upgrading phase for my second draft and then my upgrading phase for the third draft.
I hope to have it done by October 8th when I'll go back to Prague, because I have a trip to Rwanda October 14th and I need to be back in Prague for at least a little bit.
And so then I pushed the deadline to before I come back from Rwanda. And I have to admit, the last sort of 8-9 days in Rwanda, I was thinking to myself, hey, how often am I going to be in Rwanda? Let's give myself a few more days. So ultimately, the final deadline was November 6th, about 6 days after I got back to Prague, and I did hit that deadline. Do I regret setting the deadlines I did not make? No, because each one did move me a lot closer and gave me something to work towards, and I think I moved them for the right reasons. At the very least, I do not regret moving any of them because the draft is now done. Had I not finished the draft, perhaps I would have some more regrets.
I think there's something that big cities have, and there's only a few cities like this in the world. The city inspires you in itself, in the buildings, in the design, but also the people you end up meeting who came here for those things end up being very inspiring as well.
From a certain perspective, you could say this trip was a failure. I did not meet my clear mission objectives, but yet the bigger objective was to overall in my life write an amazing book, kind of my life's work. Then I am on track and doing that.
And of course, being in Paris, I thought I do not want to write one more of these self-help books like The Power of Habit, The Power of like I decided I wanted to take a different approach. We will see how that turns out.
Had both an empowering and terrifying thought, which is that there is no reason that I cannot write the best book on this topic that has ever and will ever be written.
This has really been something that I've been most drawn to helping people with for many, many years.
This is like, I am the one person to write this, and I hope I'm not spiraling into some kind of manic, narcissistic headspace, but I was really trying to be objective with myself, and like, this is something I've always cared about so deeply and have so much experience with. And I'm just gonna keep going, and this is exciting. I'm excited. This is great.
If you are an ENFP or INFP and want to get more done and spend more of your life doing the things you really love doing, then I suggest you sign up for one of my free trainings. There you can get tips and insights and advice that I have not shared here on YouTube, as well as it's a chance to start to get involved more in the community and meet other ENFPs and INFPs from around the world who are doing really cool things. And in the comments, let me know what was your favorite productivity tip. See you in the next video soon.